Tonight, I wanted to talk about something and its role in our society and how it got to be so popular. It does serve several roles within our society, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Like it creates social interaction through shared experience, fostering a sense of community, even with people you haven't met yet. And it can serve as a metaphor for larger societal issues like the pressures of conformity and maintaining individualism in a collective society. Its duality of amusement and annoyance sparks conversations about humor being used as a coping mechanism. And as it spreads through word of mouth, it demonstrates how memes and social concepts can spread and evolve throughout cultures. It can also play on the ideas of attention and distraction, pointing out how we can be more focused on not thinking about something. So give us a call right now because you just lost the game. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Nonprofits. Hi, I'm Kelley Laughlin. You're probably really annoyed with me right now. And this is a live call-in show that happens every single week on Friday at 7 p.m. Central, where we talk about what people believe and why they believe it. And if you'd like to call us, you can right now at 1-512-991-9242 or through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And my special guest this week is Apostate Ashley. Hi, Ashley. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
Hey, me too.
I'm sorry I probably annoyed everybody around you before the show started, but
No, not at all.
Hopefully we'll get enough people annoyed that we'll get a lot of calls. So
Yeah, that'd be cool.
yeah, that'd be all right. Before we get started, though, I wanted to give you the results of last week's We Want the Truth, or the WWTT segment. And last week, we asked you to complete the sentence, "You know you're screwed when your horoscope says blank." And here are some of our favorite answers. Number 3 from Czech Gatos. You know when you're screwed when your horoscope says you can't go wrong with canned food, guns, and ammunition. Lots of ammunition. Yeah, I'd be worried about that one. Number 2, Alec Julian says, you know you're screwed when your horoscope says Candyman, 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 Candyman. And our number 1 from Job Fortuna, you know you're screwed when your horoscope says, oh damn, you should probably stay in today. I feel like I should probably stay in every day, but
I know.
The prompt for this week is, what is something that doesn't sound creepy but is? And Ashley, do you have an answer for that one?
Oh gosh. I didn't know this question before the show started.
Oh, I thought usually they warn our guests ahead of time. So sorry to put you on the spot then.
That's okay. Oh, what's the question again? Ask it again.
Name something that doesn't sound creepy but is.
I'm
having a hard time thinking of it too, honestly.
I don't know.
Okay, well,
would you like some candy?
Ooh, yeah, see that asking a kid if they want some candy. So this seems like a really hard answer. So we're going to have to get our viewers to really think about this one, guys. So come up with some good answers, put them in the comments below, not in the chat to the side, but in the comments below, and maybe we'll read out yours next week. So, which gets us to talking to you, Ashley. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you? I'm
doing great. I'm so glad. I'm so happy to work with you. I've been really looking forward to this. When I found out I was going to do this show with you, I was like, yay.
So, me too.
Yeah. Thanks for stroking my ego, my fragile ego. You've been, we talked about this a little bit pre-show, and I know you've been posting on Facebook about it, but it seems like you've been having a little bit of a problem dating in the Midwest because you're an atheist and a liberal.
Yes, I have. I mean, everybody is just the complete opposite of me around here. And the last couple of guys that I've talked to just couldn't handle that I was an atheist, just wanted to cut things off. And it's it's really hard to just kind of like remain like calm because I kind of want to I kind of get like very frustrated that they will talk to me or treat me almost like I'm the one that's being irrational.
Hmm.
It's very frustrating, but I don't know any atheist men near me at all.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I know we always hear that on the show, and we always say, if you just put your voice out there, you're going to find people. I have in my area, and I just haven't found anybody that's mostly the like mind that I am. A small handful of us, and we were already friends to begin with, to not be honest with you. But we've even tried to have secular humanist gatherings together, like out in the park, so we didn't have to be at somebody's house or a location when we were worried about, and just nobody showed up. So yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. It does seem to be frustrating sometimes. Of course, I live in a very rural area too, so I have
Yeah.
that going against me.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I need to try to look for some secular humanist groups around here or something, see if there's something going on. I know that my brother-in-law had tried to start one, but there was only like four of us
Yeah,
that
see,
would
that's
really
what
show
happened
up.
with us too. Yeah, that's what happened with us as well. So I don't know. Have you ever tried looking for something on meetup.com? I'm not sure. I don't even know if am allowed to say that, but I know there are a lot of organizations that use it to get together and organize meetings.
I haven't looked at it in the city that I'm in now, but in the last city there was. They would go to trivia nights at a
Hmm.
bar nearby every week. That was pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like I know they have a lot of events down at the Free Thought Library, like a philosophy night, and they have watch parties for the shows on Sundays. They have a game night on Fridays. So yeah, and I think we really need to build more community like that. That's probably one of the biggest problems that I think we have as a whole as atheists, is that we're having a hard time finding each other and building a community. And it's been
Yeah,
because of the internet, it's gotten a lot better. We can at least talk to each other and find each other across long distances. But still, I mean, it's nice to have that group interaction where you're actually talking and touching people, right?
I know. I know. That's one of the things that I really miss about when I went to church because it was just a set time every week that I would go and I would see the same people. And then, like you said, like touching and stuff,
Mhm.
like, naturally we would give each other hugs and say hi. But, even at the beginning of church services after worship, they would always, have like a greeting type thing. You go around and you shake hands or say hello, give hugs to the people around you. And I always loved that. Just 5 minutes of saying hi and giving hugs.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, it's that human interaction. That's what I think we need to, like I said, we need to have more of that within our community. I don't know how to do that better. I wish I did, because, like I said, I think it's one of the biggest problems facing our community today. But
I think
if
so
anybody
too.
has an idea, please send me an email. I'd be happy to try to start promoting it and getting it working, fixing the problem. So.
Yeah. I know that there's a lot of cities that have the UU churches, the Universalist Unitarian. I
Mhm.
don't have any near me, but I know that a lot of people will do that because it's especially like I know in Minneapolis, they have just Unitarian. So a lot of the time it'll be an atheist that's speaking.
Mhm. Mhm. I actually used to go to a UU church when I went back and forth to it while I was going through different difficult times in my life, and I was going for that sense of community when I really needed it, when I didn't feel like I had that. So it really worked good for me. Um, Nobody ever questioned my atheist ideals. They all knew I was an atheist and still warmly accepted me. We used to all get together for breakfast after the services on Sunday too. And that was the best part of it, honestly, was hanging out with the people and getting to know them and having breakfast with them. That was my favorite part. So
Oh
it
yeah, that
really
would be
helped me.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think are maybe some of the problems that we're facing today?
Just in regards
Yeah, just
to
in general, the
community
atheist
in
community.
general.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we
Oh,
talked about that one. Do you think we have other ones that are?
yeah. I mean, obviously, right now we have a lot going on politically, and just trying to fight misinformation and people being uneducated about certain types of things, even just with gender and oppressing certain groups of people. I think that's a big thing. And a lot of the time, like as I became an atheist, especially at the very beginning, I just had the assumption that all of us kind of thought the same, but that's not always the case.
No, it
A lot
certainly
most
isn't.
most of us do, but there's quite a few out there that just aren't quite the same in regards to that. There's a saying, um, sometimes you can take the man out of church, but not always the church out of man.
Hmm.
So they'll still have those same mentalities. But
Right,
yeah, I
right.
think I think a big one, with the election coming up and everything, um, a lot of that stuff kind of comes up. Those topics come up, and you see the bigotry and the hatred a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying. I had something I was going to say in response to something you said, and I forgot it. It's at the very end there. That happens to me sometimes. I'm getting older, and both my brain cells get stuck together more and more.
Both of them, you only have two.
Yeah, you want to buy one? So yeah, I think there's always room for improvement, and I think that I think a lot of atheists, if they can, should go out and try to make a difference in their own community. I don't know that you're going to solve any big problems, but I always say each small candle lights a dark corner of the world. So just going out and lighting some really dark corner, little small dark corner is always a help. It's any little thing you do helps the world in general. So I think
Yeah.
I would love to see more atheists going out and spreading atheist and secular ideals throughout our society. It would be a lot better. Not that you have to do it or that you should pressure people into it. Just go out and be an example. That's all you need to do. I'm an atheist, and look, I'm a good person, and I'm doing good things for our community. I think that's one of the best things we can do. So,
Yeah. Especially if we were able to kind of do like what I used to do back in church, or like outreaches and charitable type things, feeding people or having what we called like a free store, where we would all donate clothes, and then people who needed them could come in and just take a bag full of them for free.
mhm, yeah,
I mean, that would be a really cool thing about trying to get a humanist or secular type group together, having community, but also helping the community.
right, right. I know several secular groups throughout the country I've seen over the years doing helping feed the homeless too, going out on the streets and actually bringing food out to homeless people, and socks and blankets. I know this organization itself has done it in the past. So I'd like to see more and more of that. I'd like to see us destroying this straw man stereotype of the angry atheist. That's what I would love to see, So maybe someday, maybe we'll be able to get rid of that idea. We do have some calls though. Would you like to take one?
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right, let's go over to call in studio here. I got Puck. Oh, our good old buddy Puck's calling. He wants to talk
Oh,
about Ashton Forbes and other high-tech grifters. Hi, Puck. How are you?
Hello, it's good to be talking to you again, Kelley.
Yeah, it's always Puck. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You've always been one of my favorite people. So.
And actually, I've been following your work for a while. I loved your interviews with the Clergy Project. I really appreciate the work you're doing out there.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I remember talking to you before.
Oh yeah, we've crossed some paths before, but all of us have. That's kind of awesome that I actually get to talk to you now.
Yeah.
So what do you got for us, Puck?
Okay, so it's come to my attention in the past couple of weeks that there's a grifter out there by the name of Ashton Forbes, who I don't want to like give links or anything, but he's out there if you want to see his stuff. And he's been pitching some really weird quantum stuff. And I think it's fine to like go out and debunk the specific science itself, but really more to my interest is what makes gurus like this appealing in the first place? Like, what's the draw? Right? Like, you know, you have people like this who say, well, we're only like a little bit of tech away from having free unlimited energy for everybody, but big oil is getting in the way of studies and whatnot. It's obviously a grift. They're obviously asking for money. They're not shy that they're asking for money. But why? What is it about them that comes across as believable and not just followable, but supportable in a financial sense?
Are you asking for my opinion?
Yeah, and the reason I want to think in that way is if we can figure out what makes them so appealing, maybe we can figure out some way to take the people who are so enraptured by them and more easily turn around, because they're not going to get turned around by the facts. You're not going to turn around by saying, well, here, the science doesn't support what this guy is saying, right? Because they're caught by something else, and I can't figure out what.
Yeah, I think now I don't know. I can't say it. I'm not a sociologist. It's not something I've studied. It's something that intrigues me. It's something that I have looked up and read about a little bit. Like I said, I haven't really delved into it. Like I said, I'm not a sociologist or anything, but it seems to me that there's several factors that drive the popularity of people like this. And one of them seems to be that if I listen to this person who's bucking the system, who doesn't think that mainstream science is valid, you know, oh, look at this thing over here. If I believe in this and he can show me, and I'm making air quotes when I say show me, if he can show me how this is working, I can have this special knowledge that nobody else has. I can be smarter than a college professor because I know this. And I think a lot of people who are low information might fall for this quite easily and think that they become special people when they get this special knowledge. Does that make any sense?
It does, but it's weird because they're not actually gaining the special knowledge for themselves. They're just like special knowledge adjacent. They're like knowledgeable by association, but it falls apart the second you actually ask them anything specific about what it is that they're talking about. And we saw this happen a few years ago too with NFTs and cryptocurrency and all the numerous scams that happened from there. And I guess I wonder, like, how do people not look at stuff like 0-point energy and not say this is literally the same thing?
P.T. Barnum, P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute. There was a reason he said it, and I don't know what else to say on that one, right?
I wish I had something to offer, but I don't know enough information about this, and
I don't know any specific information about this guy, but I'm just going off of the grifter thing, the grifter topic, and that's what I'm just playing off of here. So I did pull him up real quick, but then we started talking, and I didn't get to see exactly what it was that.
No, he's just the latest. Like I said, not long ago, the big thing was what is it? I just said the word, cryptocurrencies, right? And all the scams that came out of there, and Sam Bankman-Fried, and all that stuff where people are charming and people say, this is the future and we're all going to go to the moon. And anybody who doubts us are just losers who can't see the thing. But the slightest scrutiny, it all falls apart. And I'm wondering, like, why don't people just do the, is it the hope? Is it the sense that there's so many people around them are showing the belief and they don't want to be the one that says, I don't think I quite buy what you're selling? Like, I don't know. Like we just talked about, or you guys just talked about the importance of community. So maybe that sense of belonging, even if it means you have to go along with something you don't fully understand, because that's what it requires to be part of this group. I don't know.
That could be. That could be. When you talk about the hope thing, and I don't know if this helps or anything, and I know I don't normally like to talk about things, personal things, and this isn't really personal to me, but it has to do with my area. There was an old iron mine, and they kind of polluted an area outside, right along adjacent to the mine. So it's just like this barren, flat land now. And a company came in and they leased it. It now belongs to the state. They leased it from the state because they were going to build a solar generator out there. They were going to start collecting solar and build all these solar panels and collect solar energy. Now, they leased the land almost 20 years ago. And they built a website to talk about it. They never really finished the website, and they never did any work at all at the actual site. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources took the lease back from them because they never did any work. And some of our local politicians put pressure on the Michigan DNR to renew the lease, to give them the lease back, because they were going to bring all these jobs to the area. There was this hope that and I don't even know how we don't need people to collect solar energy, so I don't know what jobs were going to be brought to the area anyway. But they actually pressured the DNR to give the lease back to this company. This was 3 years ago, and they still haven't even finished the website, let alone done anything out at the actual physical site. So maybe it is that hope, it's because and I have talked to people in this area who really think that this thing is going to bring all these jobs here. And we do live in it. I'm in a rural area. It's economically depressed. Jobs are a big deal here. So I don't know. Maybe that is it.
Sometimes, like in those those scammers,
sorry, go ahead.
they'll bring like a sense of urgency, or make you feel like you need to financially give or be a part of this because something bad is going to happen if you don't, it could happen at any time if you don't get in on this now. Almost like a salesman type thing.
Right. Like selling the urgency of it. It's like we're so close to a breakthrough, or we can't do this without your support, and we know that we're never going to get like government funding or mainstream support. So it's going to be up to people like you to help put it through.
Yeah. Not only are you
able to come up with. Sorry, but
no, go ahead, Puck, please.
Well, the best answer that I've been able to come up with is that, like, for me, the best thing that I can do for someone who has fallen victim to one of these is that when they do come around, the absolute last thing they need is an "I told you so," because they're probably already getting that from a bunch of other people they know. And the best thing you can do, I think, is just validate their story, understand why it could have been convincing, and then just move on from there.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been taken at one time in our life, pretty much, right?
Let's not make a deal of it.
Yeah, right. Like I said, we've all been taken at some point in our lives. That let's show somebody the compassion that we wished we had gotten when it happened to us, right?
Yeah, and that's why I think the thing that's going to strengthen our communities the most is things like telling stories and sharing the stories and validating the experiences that we had, where, like there's the Clergy Project that's doing it, and other people who do interviews, and they take the stories of people who are detransitioning or who have deconverted, and just validating, yeah, I understand why you were there. And that's not, we don't look down on you for having done that. We don't look down on you for having believed and having this hope. And now that you don't have that, we're not going to badger you for that. You're a different person now. And we're not going to hold that. It's a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Yeah, any of us have the capability of being duped. I mean, that's kind of how I view my time in the church, is just I was duped, and I was duped by people who were also duped. And obviously there are some people out there that are purposely duping, but a lot of the time it's just something about it makes you feel like you have some sort of identity or belonging, or some special information that other people don't have. And it's just really easy to be duped, no matter how intelligent you are. These people, especially the ones that, like you're talking about, the ones that are doing the scamming, they have that charismatic personality that makes you, like, they know how to speak to you. They know how to be manipulative in that way.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, I like to think that I'm immune to being sweet talked into something like that, but I deep down I know I'm not, and deep down I know that it's very, very possible for me to get shilled into something, and then, you know, $10,000 in donations later, I have nothing to show for it. I'm not immune. The only difference is I haven't done that yet, right? So, but it's possible, and I try to be humble and aware of that.
Yeah, I think it's possible for any of us that, like I said, a lot of us have already been duped at one point in our lives, right? I mean, how many? Yeah, I was going to make a joke about getting married and divorced, but I better not.
Hey,
All right. Well, thank you guys
I
for
understand.
entertaining this.
Yeah, I figured you would. Yeah.
Yeah, and
thank you,
someone who,
Puck.
you know, yeah, no problem. And as someone who had to date while atheist in a very conservative area, it's possible. It's out there. It happens, and we're out there. We just have no convenient way of signaling to each other. Like, we don't have the atheist version of being able to, like, sense when somebody is. You know, I have no idea how to find atheists in the wild. I just happened to, and I was very lucky to find a community here where I am in Ohio. So.
Oh, that's good. That makes me feel like I have a little bit of hope.
Yeah, you're both in the same state anyway, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, Ohio's
yeah,
a big
thanks.
place, though. I mean, I have to drive 2 hours just to watch good ice hockey. So,
Columbus is a big. Columbus is a big
I have
state.
to live in a very
I've been all
progressive
over
oasis
it.
in a entire I'm in a progressive oasis in an entire sea of conservatism. You go 10 miles out of town and you already see that you're going to hell billboards.
Yeah.
That's not an exaggeration. They're just billboards say, "Hey, guess what? You're going to hell. Maybe don't read this while you're driving." Okay. Thank you guys very much for entertaining my thoughts tonight.
Well, thank you, Puck. Thanks for calling in. Like I said, I always enjoy talking to you.
It was nice talking to
All right,
you.
have a good night.
You too.
Good talking to Ashley.
Puck is the next host of the show, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Puck was one of the. I think I'm not 100% positive sure, but I think he was the first person besides Dan to be a host of Truth Wanted. So,
Oh,
yeah, I miss Puck. I really do. Puck's awesome. One thing I forgot to do, though, back when before we took Puck's call, I was called a punk, was thanking our patron of the week. So, and I'm looking for it on my document, and it's I'm not seeing it there. Oh, here we go. There we go. I found it. I'm sorry, guys. I got lost for a minute. So I want to thank our patron of the week this week. I want to thank all of our patrons, but especially our patron of the week. Every single week we get to shout out one of our patrons that donates through tiny.cc/PatreonTW for supporting this show. And we appreciate it. It makes this show better. I don't make any money for it. It all goes to production of this show. This week's patron of the week is Gotog. thank you, Gotog, and thanks you to everyone else that keeps this show rolling, that contributes and keeps this show rolling. We really, really appreciate it. We put a lot of work into it, so it's nice to have when people are financing it for us. So it really makes us feel good that people are helping us do it, to bring this to the masses. So while we're talking about other things, as many of you know, we have initiated phase 2 of the brick fundraiser. We want to highlight some of the standout bricks that we've of the orders that we've already received. This week's featured brick, say that 10 times quick, comes from Cassie from Louisiana, and it says, "Drop your faith like a brick." Thank you for your purchase, Cassie, and you can get yours at tiny.cc/ACA bricks. Don't be thick, buy a brick. You'll be putting your name up on the side of the ACA forever, for eternity, and everybody will know what a great person you are for doing that. So Ashley, though, Puck mentioned you working with the Clergy Project. Why don't you tell us about that some?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't really done a whole lot with it in the last year or so. I was on the board, but I'm not anymore, just because I had gotten so busy with work. But the Clergy Project, for anybody that doesn't know, is a nonprofit for ex-clergy, or, if you're trying to get out and you no longer believe and you still are clergy, you can join, and it's completely discreet. If you go to the clergyproject.org or clergyproject.org website, you can sign up to become a member, and you could have a pseudonym if you don't feel comfortable with your name being out there. We offer, I believe it's 12 subsidized counseling sessions with Secular Therapy Project. There's career coaching, if you're kind of anything like I was, where my entire world was church, and I did that for so long, I didn't really have any experience in the real world. And there's a lot of clergy out there that's like that doesn't know really quite how to get out there in the real world working. And so they'll work with you with a resume and, preparing for interviews and applying for jobs, teaching you the different career branches, things like that. And obviously just the community of it, being able to talk with one another. We have a hidden and private Facebook group. Obviously, the website itself has a forum type format. There's a lot of stories just in the archives from all of the members, or a ton of the members, just over the years. I believe that the Clergy Project's been active, if I take a guess, like 12, maybe 13 years now or so. And it's really, really great. If you no longer believe and you don't feel comfortable coming out and talking about it with anyone, we're here. We're all here, and you don't have to worry about your information getting out there. We're very discreet. We do a screening. Yeah, I forgot about that part. There's a screening process to make sure that basically you're legit. And because it's so discreet, we don't want just any old person to be able to join. But it's been a really, really great community, people that I relate to on a completely different level.
Yeah, well, thanks for all that information. I do want to make one more announcement, and then I have a call just for you.
Just for me?
Yeah, I know, right? I wanted to mention that we do have a bunch of really cool merch at ACA at tiny.cc/ACA merch. All kinds of cool stuff there. If you want to show off being an atheist, That's the way to do it. And maybe you'll just attract some other atheists who are going to become your friends because you are wearing an atheist t-shirt. Wouldn't that be cool? So now what I want to do, though, is I want to bring up Marcus from Texas. And he says he wants to ask Ashley about her Pentecostal background and if it was actually as crazy as it sounds.
Was.
Hello,
Hi,
Marcus. How are
everybody.
you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me on. Glad to see you here, Ashley. Yeah, I was Catholic myself, so I didn't have a great deal of interaction with Pentecostal people. I just kind of knew them as the people who thought they were speaking in tongues and possibly playing with snakes or things like that. But
I never did the snakes.
Okay, but you did speak in tongues.
Oh yeah, all the time. I still could right now, but I'm not going to.
Oh, come on. I think everybody wants to hear that. Just a little bit.
Oh, I'll say this jokingly, but bought a Mazda, should have bought a Honda.
Okay.
You get that?
I'll go with that.
I caught that.
But no, I did kind of want to ask, I mean, that to me, that's kind of me and my Roman Catholic way of thinking. That was obviously one of the reasons why Pentecostal people were deluded and didn't have the right religion. But as somebody who used to be in it and is now out of it, I did kind of want to ask, what were you feeling when you were in the situation as opposed to what you're feeling now? And are there other things maybe that were kind of on the same level of odd that maybe people didn't know about the religion?
Yeah, it kind of took me a while after I had left trying to make sense of what all those different experiences were that I had. I guess at first it started off with me kind of realizing, we always prayed for healing, for somebody to get better from some sort of sickness or, like supernatural, like growth of one leg being shorter than the other type of thing, and realizing, okay, well, that never happened. And then especially when some of my former friends from the church would reach out to me and say, Ashley, how could you leave? After everything that you experienced, what was all that happened to you then? And at the time, I just didn't know. I'm like, I don't know, but I don't think it was a God. And over time, I look back on it and I think of how they set up the church services to begin with. There's a herd mentality and everybody's doing the same thing. And so in those settings, it doesn't feel weird or awkward or not normal because everybody's doing it. But the rush that I would feel when I would speak in tongues or even get like what we thought was like supernatural, like laughter or crying or whatever. I really think that it was like dopamine highs and, like oxytocin, different things like that. Kind of almost feels like it was maybe similar to being in like a fight or flight type of mentality where you're just kind of getting a rush of different types of hormones. And that's the best that I can explain it because, being an atheist now, I can still speak in tongues whenever I want, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there was anything having to do with the Holy Spirit being a part of it. And I don't know. It's strange on this end to look back on that part of my life and think, I can't believe I was doing all that back then. That's wild. It just seems so weird to me now. But at the time, it was almost kind of therapeutic. I felt like that's what I needed at the time, because whenever I would go through hardships, some of it almost felt uh, like very therapeutic to me. You know, I would be able to cry or laugh, or, you know, we would have altar calls a lot where you would go up to the front of the church at the altar and pray, and people would lay hands on each other and pray. And, you know, it felt like God was going to answer our prayers, because, you know, where it says where two or more are gathered, you know, that whole thing. And really, it was just very comforting. You know, when you're going through a hard time, you have people that are around you, physically touching you, showing you that they care, and hugging you, crying with you. And that's really kind of the conclusion that I've come up with for some of it. Um, and looking back on it, it was strange, but it was my normal back then.
Wow.
Also, I kind of wanted to ask a follow-up question, which was, if now that you're an atheist, and I'm assuming the people of your old church maybe know this to some extent, and I'm assuming you've had a lot of people asking you, well, how can you do this? You were such a good religious person, and now you're not. But I'm kind of interested in the other side of that coin, where are there people who have come up to you maybe in private and said, hey, I'm having my own doubts about this, but I'm still holding on to this. Have anybody from your old church kind of come up and said they doubt all of this speaking in tonguesy stuff? And
Yeah, you know, I've had various conversations with people where a lot of them are, they're still the same as they were back then. Um, a lot of them were very, very upset with me when I left. I kind of had to fall off the face of the planet for about 7.5 years, you know, no social media, change my phone number, all that kind of stuff, because people were really kind of pretty hateful. But eventually, when I came back around and I was still saying that I didn't believe, and became a little bit more boisterous about why I didn't believe, there were people that eventually started getting a hold of me, calling me, texting, or getting a hold of me on Facebook, things like that, that would say, you know, maybe something along the lines of, they didn't, especially around the time of elections and stuff, that they could not be on the wrong side of history, and they saw some of the things that I was saying. Then also there were people that were just completely admitting to me that they don't believe anymore, and they were scared, and they were scared to let go of it. They were, especially when it came to hell, um you know, afraid that if they were wrong that they would go to hell. But I've definitely had a few people tell me, you know, Ashley, thank you for being so out and open about it, because I don't believe anymore. I can't tell my family this, but it feels really good to be able to get this off my chest. But it definitely took like quite a few years before I started hearing some of those things.
right, yeah, that's I was always I kind of wonder about that when I hear stories like yours of people who were very um, very into their faith and then kind of come out and wondering how the backlash and the maybe the other side of it, where you're finding you're not necessarily the only one who had the doubts. But I do appreciate you kind of sharing that with us. And I will let you go on to other calls, but I do have to say I appreciate Kelley's reverse wardrobe tonight. Usually Kelley comes on with a very kind of tame jacket and a a wonderful tie, but you switched it up tonight. You came with the crazy jacket. I'm just wondering where you got that thing from, and if they have them in larger sizes.
Kelley, you're muted.
Thank you so much. Yeah, they probably do. I've been have a running joke for the last few months that I keep going to buy a plain blue blazer, and I keep coming back with these crazy monstrosities. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that they are. Yeah, that you can get them in bigger sizes. Johnny P. Angel expressed a desire for me to come in a whole suit to the next back cruise, so I'm considering that. So we'll find out what kind of a crazy suit I can find.
I will make a pledge. If you find your crazy suit, I will go to the bad cruise. We'll make that deal.
Okay, cool. That sounds all right. I'll make that deal with you.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Marcus. I appreciate it
for having me on the show, and have a good night.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for calling in. I really appreciate your call. And that was awesome. Ashley, that was the details you went into were great. I mean, like you expressing your personal experiences was great. Was awesome. One of the questions I ask a lot of people who spoke in tongues, were you really speaking in tongues, or were you just doing it because you felt like everybody around you everybody around you expected you to do it?
Yeah, there was definitely a pressure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you weren't really speaking in tongues. You were just making stuff up to appease everybody around you, is that what was?
I mean, basically, because then eventually it happened often enough that it was just, oh, okay, I'm doing this now. Like, and a lot of the time for me, it would happen like during praise and worship time. So music was loud. Nobody could even hear what I was doing anyway.
Gotcha. Just something that I've asked a lot of people who did spoke in tongues. So I don't know why I ask. It's just something I'm curious about. So
kind of just like feels like meditation almost, because you're not thinking about the words that are coming out of your mouth or the sounds that are coming out of your mouth. It's just gibberish. And they've actually even hooked somebody up to an fMRI, like a functional MRI. While they've done this, just to see what's going on in their brain. And basically the speech part of their brain is just kind of like nothing's really going on like there would be if I was hooked up to it right now.
Gotcha. Well, we do have another call I'd like to get to, but before we do, I want to thank the wonderful crew. Hey, I just made a poem. That was awesome. And there they are. What a great bunch of people there. And I can also see the control room at the Free Thought Library as well. So that's where all the magic happens. So thanks, crew. Thanks for being there. Thanks for making this show work. I mean, I just show up and talk, so I look stupid and talk. So you are the guys that really make it happen back there. So I do want to get to this next call. It's Chase, and he's in the USA, and he wants our opinions on the value of watching graphic footage to educate and motivate activism. So hi, Chase. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Doing well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I guess I want to talk about, get your ideas on where to draw the line, because I don't want to, overwhelm people too much, but so I do activism for human rights and animal rights. And, I think that showing the graphic footage from time to time, at least, maybe once a week or something on my social media, for example, is one of many forms of activism that can, that can be effective. There's a lot of different forms of activism that are effective, like showing happy people and happy animals and stuff like that. But also, I think it can remain, the violence can be really abstract unless we show the footage of the individual victims suffering. I think it helps us connect to the victims. But I also know that, some people are super sensitive, and I used to be super, even more sensitive than I am now. I used to be really sensitive. And so I had to kind of build up my ability to watch these type of things like police brutality or hospitals being bombed or, slaughter footage. And And now I feel like I'm able to watch it with a bit more ease because I've been somewhat desensitized. But I had PTSD before I started watching this stuff, and it might have furthered my PTSD, but I think it's still a sacrifice I'm willing to make to watch the footage and then share it.
I have different thoughts on it. Like number one, you brought up that you became desensitized to it after a while. So after a while, it kind of loses its shock value and doesn't have the effect that you wanted to begin with. Number two, I don't know that it depends on how you present that kind of content. If you're presenting it in a way that people have to see it, like I remember anti-abortion activists with big giant 8x8 photographs of aborted fetuses on Main Street in one of the towns I lived in. And when they all left that day, and none of them were from my town, they just came, blitzed it one day. The reaction was more negative than positive because of the pictures that they had lined Main Street with. So I think you have to watch how you're presenting that type of content. If you're forcing people to see it, you may end up affecting your cause in a negative way than in a positive way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. I'm not sure exactly how to analyze it right now, but I'm going to keep thinking about that. I think it might have something to do with the legitimacy of the cause, as opposed to, and also maybe like showing, I don't know, there might be a difference between showing, dismembered bodies versus showing a living individual in a state of fear. That might strike better, but not be so gruesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I mean, you can show the negative plight of individuals without having to get graphic, right? I'm trying to think of the photographer that was in California during the Depression that photographed. He's got the famous picture, black and white photograph of the woman in the migrant camp. He did a bunch of photographs of the people who were stuck during the Big Depression in these migrant camps that had come west from the Dust Bowl of the Middle West, and he really got people to understand through his pictures in Life magazine what was going on there, right? There was nothing graphic, but he was still showing what was wrong, what these people were going through. So I think we can communicate that message without blood and gore.
Sure. Ashley, what are your thoughts?
Me personally, some of my stronger viewpoints I've found was a lot better to share when I had like different platforms. So like I don't put some of the stuff that I think, especially the really strong viewpoints, on my personal Facebook. But I've then made social media specifically for all of my atheist stuff and all of that, because I knew that it wouldn't have the impact that I wanted it to, because like he's saying, it would be like I'm forcing it on them.
Right. Hey, our backup host, Eli Slack, just put in the text chat, context matters. And that's exactly what I was trying to communicate. And I think what Ashley was trying to communicate too. So.
Okay, cool.
Something that would work in one instance might be just the opposite of what you need to work in another instance. So.
Sometimes it's really hard when you feel very passionately and you want other people to feel what you're feeling. But it is kind of good to maybe separate that out a little bit.
Yeah, I understand. I guess I myself have been severely impacted by some hardcore footage, and I know a lot of people who've made huge life changes because of some graphic footage. And but I also know that a lot of people are hesitant to even begin to try to watch it. And And I think that we underestimate ourselves sometimes, and maybe we should, next time something comes up that we're at first afraid to watch, maybe we should power through and watch it for a bit and see how much we can take in order to get educated and motivated to take action for the many victims of this world, you know? Because I feel like if I was one of the ones that was really suffering, that I would hope that somebody would watch the video evidence of what's being done to me, so that they would know and make that connection to me, and strive to make a collective action to represent and liberate me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you definitely, your heart is in the right place, and how, how strongly you feel and how sensitive you feel to some of these things. I mean, that's a really, really good thing, especially in a world where people can be, so hateful.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to make people faint or nothing either, you know, because I know some people are really sensitive to seeing blood and stuff like that, you know, so especially in person. But I hesitate to give them a trigger warning on social media, saying, you know, because I think that, again, like we underestimate ourselves. I think that we usually can see a little bit of this, or that, you know, whatever suffering we go through, I think pales in comparison, like the suffering that we go through by watching a second or two of something violent is nothing compared to what the victim went through.
Yeah. Some people need a trigger warning, though. I mean, like there's a lot of things that I can watch or I can hear that I know, like, for instance, like my mom would never be able to. She's just way too sensitive about some of that stuff, does not want to hear about it or see it.
And as somebody that suffers from PTSD myself, it's not something that you get over. It's something you carry with you for the rest of your life. You just get it more under control. There are things that will set me off. You know, I'll see something and I'll just be reduced to gibberish because of a news story that I read, or I heard something on the radio. So you got to be very careful about things like that. That's really careful about things like that. And you did mention you suffered from PTSD yourself, so you should probably, you know, I'm sure you understand that, how those triggers work, right?
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk, you know, because I guess I just feel that the majority of people can handle watching this. They just don't believe that.
But is it worth causing harm to the other people to get to the majority? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And that's why I brought up the triggers with PTSD and why you should understand that yourself. I mean, would you want to be triggered out, but would you want your PTSD triggered because of a right-wing, something that from a right-wing cause said or showed you? Probably not, right?
Well, no, but I think that's different than my PTSD being triggered, which it happens every day, pretty much when I scroll through my social media. You know, it's just, you know, Gaza problem, you know, like.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, do you want to add on to that?
Well, if necessary to prevent further suffering, then yeah, like, because but
you're causing suffering by doing it. That's what I'm trying to explain. Yeah, you are like bringing out the suffering to these people, but you're causing suffering to a group of people as well by doing so.
I understand. And when people share what I believe should be shared, and I see it and it bums me out and triggers my PTSD a little bit, that's for me to deal with. And I need to, you know, but I'm not going to ignore the suffering of the world just for my own sake. And so I don't.
That's not what I'm asking you to do.
I don't. Hold on. I don't deem what they did a negative thing when they posted this. Because if I posted something and included a trigger warning, most people would not watch it even though they can. And that's messed up.
I think it's messed up that you're forcing people to watch something like that, especially when there's people like me who could see something like that and be turned into a gibbering pile of humanity because I watched something like that. And that's what I'm trying to communicate to you. It's like you don't care about this group of people because they're not most people.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
I do care, and I wish I didn't have to share this stuff, and maybe I should include a trigger warning, but maybe that would be that might not be as effective as leaving the trigger warning off. It's something I need to think about some more. But
sure.
I lean
also think about maybe somebody would want to watch it later on, but maybe they're at work in that moment, and what if they were triggered while they're at work and they just happen to see it during like a 15-minute break, or they're with some family, or they're near their kids, or certain situations like that where it's just not the time and place. But if they had a warning, they could maybe like flag that post and go and watch it later when it's a more appropriate time.
Yeah, that's a good thing to think about. Another thing is just that maybe they shouldn't follow me on social media because I have a history of posting this stuff, and they should know, that I'm trying to spread the word, and that like I lean towards utilitarianism, which means I am willing to, have some unfortunate things happen for a greater good, which means spreading the word and showing this evidence,
Yeah, I know my posts get out to people who aren't my followers, so I'm not sure that is a valid solution to the problem, because the posts still get out to people who don't follow you. So, and that's what I'm talking about, is that like when you post something like that, you don't put a trigger warning, you're actually just shoving that into their face, just like those anti-abortion people were doing on Main Street in my town, and literally got a negative reaction to it. People hated those people more than they hated abortion after they left. And that's why I kind of brought that up first, is that that you might be pissing off people more than you think you are.
Yeah, I still think that like I'm hearing you, I hear you, but I still think that depends on the validity of the cause and like the values of the people that are.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Like, if you're gonna horrible graphic scenery is horrible graphic scenery, whether it's for a cause that you believe in or a cause that you're against. It's still horrible graphic scenery that a lot of people don't want to see, and will harm or hurt people if it gets shoved in their face. And I keep trying to explain this to you, and you keep making excuses about why it's okay to do it. And I'm telling you that it's simply not okay to do that.
Well,
to cause harm to people is not okay.
Okay, well, I think that like I think we might be going around in circles. Again, so I don't want to repeat myself, but I do appreciate your time, and thank you for all the activism that you do. Sometimes just a conversation is all that's needed, and there's no need to show graphic footage. And I wish it could be that situation all the time. But
you can also show footage that isn't graphic. There are other ways to get to communicate your ideas.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, and I do that a lot as well. But I still think there's time for graphic footage, and but I need to rethink whether or not to put a trigger warning on there. So thank you for challenging me on that and making me think.
All right, thanks, Chase. I always appreciate conversations with you, even if we don't agree. So, I mean, you could call in with some great topics. So I appreciate that.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. And we have got, I know we've got some super chats here that we didn't do.
Do
Puck,
you have any theist callers?
we didn't. No, we haven't.
I
Isn't
need
that
to
crazy?
get on it.
I know what's
Yeah.
going on. I've been trying to get people to call. All week I've been trying to get people to call. So we'll see what happens. We do have some super chats though. We got $5 from Puck, and he says, minimal affinity for feminine amenities for cinnamon anemones. Haha, Puck, you still haven't gotten me. And we got $5 from some kind of Dickie, and he says, is that blazer visible from space? I don't know. I've never been in space. I do have a couple of screenshots though. I thought maybe we might want to do after we finish that call. So I mean, if the crew is ready to do it, that'd be great. So I'll give them a second just to get their shit together, and then I shouldn't say that. To get my shit together, I'm the one asking them to do stuff. But we can take number one if that's okay with you. And it says, the reality is that while there is much evidence to support the Earth being very old, there is much evidence to support it being very young. The problem is people like this gentleman here, and I think it's funny that he called me a gentleman, they don't talk about all the evidence. They all talk about the evidence that supports their worldview. And this was when I was talking about young Earth creationists, obviously. I am not ignoring your evidence. I'm rejecting your evidence. I have seen the evidence. I have studied it, and I have rejected it for reasons that don't conform to reality. So the problem isn't that I am ignoring your evidence, is that your evidence isn't providing proof of what you're saying. And this is why I often talk about, I don't want your evidence, I want your proof. I want you to take what you're going to bring to me, put it through the evidentiary process first, and show that it is actually proof before you bring it into me, because evidence is often doesn't really get us anywhere. So what do you think about young Earth creationism, Ashley?
Well, I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, usually if I'm not bringing up what their quote unquote evidence is because it's irrelevant to me. You know, when they mention that there's evidence for like worldwide flood and different things like that, I think that to me, I mean, even me, who's not like super like I probably don't know as much about science as you do, but I at least know some of the basics as to, you know, what that answer is, you know, like tectonics, for instance, you know, things like that. Like there's basic concepts that people just completely overlook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's it too. And here is somebody saying that I'm ignoring the evidence, and he seems to be ignoring all my evidence too. So that's I thought it was a little bit kind of the kettle calling the what is it, the something calling the other one black.
The pot calling the kettle black.
That's it. That's it. Oh my goodness. Sometimes my brain cells have been really sticking together today. Let's do one more screenshot. And it says, when did the physical world come to existence? Most atheists I have encountered do not believe the physical world has always existed. And this was, again, because I'm talking about young Earth creationism, and I'm not real sure about what this guy is saying here. Now, I don't know if the physical world has always existed or not. One of the things that I often say to people who bring back, is everything had to have a cause, so therefore God did it because God is eternal. Well, how do we know the universe isn't eternal? Maybe the physical world has always existed. It's something that I've always said it was a possibility. So I'm not sure where you might get the idea that I don't believe the physical world has always existed. I don't believe it has. I think it's possible that it has, and I think it's possible that it hasn't. I know that there's several different ideas. hypotheses about how the universe started. I don't know which one is right. Nobody does, not at this point anyway. I think it's something that maybe science may discover at some point in the future, but we're not even close to that yet. So, Ashley, you got anything you'd like to say on that one?
I mean, when theists will ask me questions about that type of stuff, what my thoughts are, about how do I feel about how the universe got here, how the earth got here, how human beings came to be, things like that. I feel comfortable with saying, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that. And I'm not going to fill in the gap with a God did it at any point, or any supernatural being did it. And we just don't know all the answers. It's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know for sure how long the earth has been here, how long the universe has been here. And for all we know, it could be like a cyclical type thing. It could be something that has happened over and over again. Or maybe there was just one beginning point. We don't know.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's really hard for some theists to accept that we don't know. So that they like have to have an answer to how did the universe get there? Well, I know God did it. It's easy. I don't need to have an answer to that. I really don't. I honestly, even if I had the positive answer to it tomorrow, it's not going to change my day-to-day life any at all anyway. So it's something that you're right. I mean, it's really not. So.
And they're just so conditioned to the fact that they're told that they have the answers, that their book gives them the answers. So then that's just the rhetoric that they go with in those conversations is, well, I think I have the answer. And you're saying, like, so if you don't believe in my answer, then you must believe something else that's the opposite of that. What is it that you think the answer is? And then they're just kind of thrown off a little bit when you're like, I don't know. And I'm fine with not knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am too. That's the thing. I just like even if I did know, it's not going to change my life on a day-to-day basis. So we did have a call. It was coming up like blank for me, but now I've refreshed and I see it now. So we're going to bring up our next call, and it's Peter, him in Canada, and he says he has proof of God's non-existence. So hi, Peter, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, thanks for calling in. What do you got for us?
Well, I have proof that God does not exist only if he's defined as a conscious entity that created all of material existence. That entity cannot possibly exist.
Okay, and what proof do you have of that?
Well, I've got this written down. It's very short, but okay. It goes.
Okay.
God is claimed to be a conscious entity that created all material existence. Consciousness requires existence for that consciousness to exist at all, in that the idea of any entity capable of being conscious requires some existence to be conscious of. If there is nothing to perceive, there is nothing to form concepts, the very things required to possess any form of consciousness. So in summary, the very things that God is claimed to have created are the very things that were required to exist before God could ever logically exist himself. That's it.
You want to tackle that one, Ashley? You look like you were in deep in thought. You really did.
I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know that that's proof. Let's say that that's evidence. I don't think you killed God off with that yet. What part of it did you not quite get, Ashley? Maybe we can have Peter explain it a little bit better for us.
Can I repeat that?
Yeah, can you just kind of clarify like your like overall meaning
Okay,
of
now-
all of what you said?
Okay. I'm just going to repeat it. Consciousness, to have consciousness requires existence for that consciousness to exist at all, in that the idea of any entity capable of being conscious requires some existence to be conscious of. That means you got to perceive existence to form concepts. If there's nothing to perceive, there is nothing to form concepts, the very things required to possess any form of consciousness. So in a nutshell, the very things that God is claimed to have created are the very things that were required to exist before God could ever logically exist himself.
Do you think that if you were to give this argument to a theist that they would stop believing in God?
Well, I'll tell you what, I post it on Facebook all the time, and I get I start the post with, God not only does not exist, God cannot possibly exist in any logical sense. And then after that, I just write down what I told you.
Mhm.
And I think most people don't even read past that. That all they see is God not only does not exist, God cannot possibly exist in any logical sense. That's as far as they read. They don't read anything else. And I ask them to steel man my argument. And I've asked at least 300 theists to steel man my argument. One person tried it, and they didn't even do it right because he argued against it while he was steel manning it. It's actually quite comical.
You know, our Eli
They won't do
Slack,
it.
my
They're
wonderful,
afraid.
our wonderful and amazing backup post, Eli Slack, posted in the text chat. You know, most theists would claim that God was conscious of his own existence. And so that just creates consciousness all the way down. How do you counter that?
And you know what I'd say? He
Well,
can't.
no, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, see, they're presupposing his existence. But I say, well, he can't be conscious of himself because he can't exist. I've just told you that. So there is no God to be conscious of himself.
Why couldn't he be?
So
Why couldn't he?
what I'm
Why
doing
couldn't
is
he
more
become?
of-
Why couldn't he become? Why couldn't he be? He exist and become conscious at the exact same time?
That's a good question. And how could that happen?
I don't know. I mean, how could there be a God to begin with?
something
So I
would
mean,
have Yeah, something would have to initiate that. Like, where in nature could that ever happen?
it's not in nature;
I've
it's
heard some people
supernatural.
say that, but yeah, but then you're presupposing the supernatural, and you can't.
I'm just playing God's advocate here. I was going to say
Yeah,
devil's
I
advocate,
understand.
but I'm really playing God's advocate.
You know,
Do you
I-
consider
I
yourself
read
like
this.
a Gnostic? Like
What?
out of
No, you know where I
curiosity,
got
do you
Consider myself
consider
a
yourself
atheist.
like a Gnostic?
Yes. Now, that I have to
No?
admit that argument only works
Yes.
if you define God in that way, as a conscious blah 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 blah.
Okay, so again, we don't really have proof of God's non-existence, but we have some logical evidence for it, but not proof.
I
Does
don't
that make
understand
sense?
what you're saying.
I mean, just like I just said, that what you just said is not going to kill God tomorrow. I mean, there's ways to get around it. I just came
I
up
think
with
it
one.
does. You know,
I know you
read
think
this
it does. I know you
30
think
years
it does,
ago,
but we've been trying to point out the flaws in what you're saying. And we did point out a couple of them. I thought we did.
Well, he can't be conscious of himself because he can't exist. So it takes a presupposition.
And what about if they came? What if he came into existence and became conscious at the exact same time?
Well, yeah, okay. But,
see, that's what I'm saying. And I agree with you. You've got a pretty good logical sequence going here, right? But it doesn't prove anything.
Has to be there. Being conscious means being conscious of something. So you have to have the existence there first. You can't have it come at the same time. At least I can't see how that could happen.
But you don't see how existence can happen without consciousness?
No, you can't have consciousness without existence.
Okay, well, what do you call wait, hear me out for a minute. Hear me out. Then how did the earth exist before anything lived on it?
Well, that's got nothing to do with this.
No, because you said something can't exist without consciousness. There was no consciousness on earth, but the earth still existed.
Yeah, but the living entities that arose and evolved.
I'm talking about before that. I'm talking about before that.
Well, you're
there
talking
was
about
no consciousness. There was no consciousness on earth for the first couple of 100 million years.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but you were saying that something can't exist. You were saying that something can't exist without consciousness, and yet here the earth existed without any consciousness.
I didn't say that. I said nothing. Okay, where am I doing here? Just one second. My summary is the things that God has claimed to have created are the very things that were required to exist before God could ever logically exist himself. So people that postulate the existence of God, they say, okay, this guy lives forever and ever, but there had to be something for God to be conscious of first before he could exist. Do you understand?
Yeah, but it doesn't have any. That doesn't explain away what I just said. The earth wasn't conscious. It wasn't conscious of its own existence, and yet it still existed.
Yeah, but the earth is not claimed to have created existence.
It doesn't matter. You were saying that you have to have existence to have consciousness, because you have to have consciousness for something to exist, right? Well, the earth existed and there was no consciousness. I don't understand why you don't get what I'm saying.
No, because you're not saying what I'm saying.
Okay.
This is so simple, and this is called.
It's not because it's obviously not, because you have two people here on the show that don't understand what you're saying. So it's obviously not that simple.
This is all I'm saying. You want me to repeat this again? The very things that God claimed to have created are the very things that were required to exist before God could ever logically exist himself, because he is claimed to have created everything. Everything that exists, they claim God created, but he couldn't be conscious of anything because there was nothing there before him.
Okay.
This is just called the primacy.
What about the light?
Over
like when he created the sun and there was now daylight and nighttime. Is there consciousness there?
Yeah. No, this has nothing to do with it. I'm just talking about the very point of creation itself. People claim God existed before everything else existed because he created everything, all right?
I get what you're saying. I just don't agree with it. Yeah. And I don't agree that it's proof of the non-existence of God. I actually do understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with it. I think it's I don't think it's proof of the non-existence of God.
Okay, the only thing that you could get out of it is saying that the existence and the consciousness popped into existence at the same time. But that's, oh man, come on. How could that?
No, I just don't. And even you yourself said this only works if you define God in a certain way. You said that.
That
so.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this
claimed to be a
doesn't prove the non-existence of God.
No. You're not getting it. I don't know why not. God is claimed to be.
No. Just stop for a minute, Peter. Just stop for a minute, Peter. Repeating the same thing over and over is not helping. Okay. And I understand. I understand you want this to be right. I understand that, but it's fallen flat to me. It doesn't work, and it certainly doesn't prove the non-existence of God. It may prove the non-existence of a concept, one of the concepts of God, but it certainly doesn't prove the non-existence of God altogether.
Well, yeah, okay, he could be. Okay, you could say, well, God materialized after the universe created. You have some cosmic consciousness out there, but is that what a theist wants to say as God is? No, they want him to be the beginning of everything. Do you understand?
I don't know. Not all theists think that. I mean, Christians think that. Muslims think that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't think anybody who worships Ganesh thinks that. So,
it all boils down to if the shoe fits, type of thing.
Yeah, but it's not fitting. I don't see it fitting. That's the thing. It's fitting a concept of God. It's fitting one God, but it's not fitting all the other gods.
Okay. Exactly. I agree with that.
Okay.
But to say, but you want,
and that's why I'm saying it's not proof of the non-existence of God. It just isn't. It's just proof of the non-existence of one concept of God.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, that's what I actually came in with. And where I ran into this, do you know where I ran into this?
No idea.
Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know the book Atlas Shrugged?
Yeah, that's why I said I'm sorry.
Ayn Rand? What?
Yeah, that's why I said I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that you wasted your time reading that book.
No. You can't throw away there's a lot of things she was full of it about, but a lot of things she wasn't. I always thought that when I read it about.
I never got anything out of Ayn Rand that I couldn't have got somewhere else. So from a better source, actually.
I don't even know if she got that from somebody else or not. That's where I ran into it. But anyway, I can't really add any more to this than what I have already, and it's been a pleasure.
All right, thanks, Pierre. I really appreciate your call. I mean, it was really some food for thought. I hope so. It got me to thinking about some things. I know it got Eli thinking about some things, and I know I got Ashley completely confused. So,
okay, good.
You might want to try to find a better and like a simpler way to communicate the idea, because it's not.
I shaved this down as much as I could. It was a lot longer than this.
No, I'm not talking about making it shorter. I'm talking about making it simpler to understand. Not making it shorter, making it so turning it into language that a 10-year-old could understand.
Well, I've never run into that.
You've never run into language that a 10-year-old can understand?
Well, don't interrupt me. Please don't interrupt me.
Oh, that's it. You know what? This is my show, not yours. Okay. So don't start yelling at me about interrupting. And you have overtalked me several times already. So, and I know we've overtalked each other. There's a delay problem at times, and that kind of sucks, but don't start yelling at me on my own show.
But I understand the impasse that we're at, and we can't really go any farther than this.
All right. Well, if you'd like to call back and talk to one of the other hosts about it and maybe get a different outlook on it, feel free. But I think that's as far as we're going to take it this evening. So thanks again, Peter, for calling in. And something that I would like to do before we do anything else is I want to bring up I mentioned him twice already, our wonderful, amazing backup host, Eli Slack. I'd like to bring him on up. Hi, Eli. How's it going? I know you had some thoughts about that last call. What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, like, as we started first, like, well, first of all, hey, great show, guys.
That was only
we
because
mentioned
Ashley was
earlier.
on.
I think so. Yeah, I've seen enough of your shows.
Well,
I'm not
you know.
impressed
Yeah.
anymore, Kelley.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first thing we said, like, a theist would just say, well, God was conscious of his own existence. And I equated, this is just consciousness all the way down. And then we had fun with that in the chat. But the response, as I understood it, was, well, no, he would have to be conscious of his own existence before he could exist, which is contradictory to what Peter was saying. I think there was a little bit of a mix-up because I didn't hear him say existence requires consciousness. I heard him say consciousness requires existence, which I think I agree with. But when we get to the point of, like, we're talking about divinity and like an intelligent creator of the universe with agency, we're already outside of the realm of like what makes sense. So I think trying to describe it in terms of like, well, it wouldn't make sense to be conscious before you existed. Well, like, obviously it wouldn't make sense, but like neither does anything else in the Bible. So it seems sort of a moot point to try to argue with someone who believes in the triomni God.
Awesome.
My thoughts.
Wait, what about Chase's call? What did you think about that one? About graphic?
Chase, yeah. So context is kind of where we landed on that. Context matters a lot. I think, as Apostate Ashley pointed out, somebody may see something and be like, okay, this is something I will look at later, but right now I'm not in the right, like, the appropriate contextual setting to be looking at. Like, my 6-year-old is over my shoulder and I don't want to have to explain like why this person's like arm is not attached to their body or stuff like that. Or people with PTSD, like we talked about. Chase seems to, I don't think he said this explicitly, but he mentioned that, like, he gets triggered every day. His PTSD is triggered every day. And it sounds like perhaps he has a system where he's pretty successful at kind of managing that, and it doesn't interrupt his routine so much, or perhaps his like thought patterns, or like doesn't give him too much of, and he didn't say that. So I might be like, I'm kind of extrapolating, and that might be an unfair assumption. But not everybody, like, definitely not everybody handles it as well as it sounds like he is. If he's saying, like, if he's just casually saying like, yeah, I get triggered basically every day just scrolling through Facebook, and you're just continuing to do that, it sounds like you handle that better than a lot of people do. And so to impose that on others because you think that's best. Exposure therapy can be effective, but that you can't make that decision for other people. Like, that's exposure therapy is effective when a person chooses that, or it's directed by a trained person, not just posting on social media.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. I really do. I understand the benefit of it, but again, I don't think you should be shoving it in people's faces or putting it somewhere where they're just going to see it without some kind of warning at all. So, Ashley, you were freaking awesome, man. I'm so happy I got to do this show with you. I really had a lot of fun.
Me too.
I wish we had more theist callers calling in. Unfortunately, we didn't. But we had some good calls. Ashley, I forgot to ask you beforehand. Are you going to be able to hang out with us in the after show at all? And don't feel like you're obligated to.
Yeah, I mean, I can. I don't have to make a Discord. I don't have one, so I may need you to walk me through what I do, where I go. I'll try.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can send you a link. Then, and from that point, I think you might have to sign in, and if you don't make it, I totally understand. Right. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to hold you to it. I understand that sometimes we actually go pretty late, and I understand that not everybody can do that. And I try not to go too late. I will put a link in the messenger for you, though, so that you can find it.
Okay. I mean, those conversations were pretty good, even though we didn't get any theists. I would have really liked to talk to theists, but I mean, there were just some good discussions in there, things to think about.
I thought the last two this last one was a little confusing. I thought it was a good discussion, and maybe not about the actual topic, but about how
being presented,
about the logic of the topic to what the call was described as, I guess. So Because
Yeah, I
like
mean,
Go
and
ahead.
like in regards to like what Chase was talking about too, um, sometimes people are interested in some of those heavier topics. I mean, even when you think of like atheism or talking about religion and things like that, like, you know, maybe some of our viewers who have come out of religion, a lot of people will watch kind of binge watch a lot of episodes and then maybe reach a point where they're kind of like, I need to take a break. It's too much. It's too heavy. And people just do that in general with heavier content. Some people can handle seeing it whenever, but some people really just, they need to take breaks. They need to be in the right headspace.
Yeah, I agree. I want to thank you again, Ashley, for being here. I had so much fun with you. This was a real honor for me to meet you and to work with you today. So I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it was nice to meet you too.
Yeah, and I want to before we leave, I want to reiterate our segment. We want the truth. The prompt for this week is, what is something that doesn't sound creepy but is? So comment on the video. Your comment may be right on next week's episode. Comment below, not next to us in the comments, and stick around because we are going to go to the Atheist Community of Discord for an after show. At least Eli and I will be there, and hopefully Ashley will be able to join us as well. And we'll be back next week. And in the meantime, we want you to keep wanting the truth.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.